Hello, guys, and you're welcome once again to OAsis Academic Adventure Podcast. So, in this episode, I'll just be discussing about how stressed I have been in the recent time. I've actually been stressed. Late last year, I welcomed a newborn, my second baby, and keeping in tabs with family has also been 18. And please join me as we enjoy this particular edition of the podcast. Thanks for joining. Yeah, if you've not been following, it's time for you to follow, and this is gonna be more consistent than ever. Let's do this and let's take a short break. I am stressed. PhD, handling newborn, and staying connected with family. Yeah. Well, I'm not meant to record this at this time that I'm recording it, but why shouldn't I? Because I feel like recording it. I feel like talking about it. I feel like it's not been easy, being a family person and studying for a PhD. PhD itself is a big stress on its own, and having to deal with that with newborn who don't think of any other thing than their comfort, and it's not their fault. It's just their nature. It's they need to depend on us, and you need to factor that in. So why? Let's talk about this. What has been my I won't lie to you. Who first saw me, I was almost getting tired, but no, I will not be tired. I will not be tired. I needed to take a break at some point. I needed to also, distract myself a bit so that I don't get overwhelmed, I don't get carried away, and or be like stuck in between the projects. So what has been the challenges so far? Generally, we know PhD is demanding, but no doubt about that. It's very very demanding, and people tends to handle it different way. And I've seen a couple of people drop out. Actually, people have dropped out of PhD. People had to take intermission, but 3 years is almost here, and I'm still going. I'm still going. I'm still going. So you have to do a lot of in-depth review. It's a large documents, back and forth review, criticism here and there. It's sometimes comes with a feeling like you've been rejected at some point, but no, you're not being rejected. It's just the process that should lead to a quality work to ensure that you are able to wave through the storm and sort of kind of a test. The fire you have to pass through, the same kind of fire that um, gold pass through before it becomes refined and become worthy. You can think about crude oil and all of those processes passes through that we can then extract gas, petrol, diesel, kerosene, and all of those other things. So it's a process that will refine every researcher. So the nature of PhD, how you have to read, you have to read. If you don't read, you can't have what to write. If you don't read, you don't get inspiration. So reading is that big part of PhD. Well, with the introduction of quite a lot of tools, and I have mentioned about referencing tools which were help you stay organized before, and I'll put the link below. And but then most importantly, you have to sort of know where to go to when you need to get contents, things that are relevant for your study and more. This itself is stressful because there are some platform you cannot access them. You see the title, you see the abstract, you probably see the introduction, but you never get to see the real article. Perhaps what you need is even in the main article. So you just get overwhelmed, get stressed, and but then it's different here in UK. You have access to majority of the things. You can make document requests from British Library and more, but it's a process on its own. It's a big process on its own, and then finding what's relevant for your for your particular subject, for a particular argument, knowing where it fits in and making it flow, connecting to other other disconnected ideas, and just ensuring that the old document sync. It's stressful. supervisory meeting, rare, very helpful meetings. But then when perspective and differences starts coming in, it becomes something else. So you really need to know what you're doing so that you'll be able to kind of manage the conversation. Think about it like a baby. You are pregnant with it, you know how it's doing. Nobody else understands your project better than you do. So the better position you are, the better the chances, the higher the chances of you getting through with your ideas. But yes, please welcome suggestions, insights, and more. This is very important for your growth because you need that to strive as a PhD. So that's another stressor. The methodology just have to be right, ethically compliant. I have to go through the ethics review, which I also went through sometimes late last year. I think I found great that there was really no. It was approved with minor corrections, which I just had to tidy, and then that was it. So yeah, I may probably do talk about it, do a podcast around it afterwards. So let's move on to another stressor. Another stressor is writing. Well, for many it is not. For me, yes, it's not for me, but for some people it is a big deal because they don't have the flair to write. I'm a writing person. I like to write a lot, so it's not a problem for me. So for some other person it can become a serious thing that tend to affect their productivity, and they have some things to write but they don't know how to go about it. So for some people it is a very stressful thing to do. So for me it's not. It's not. It's really big stressor. How I do it, you want to know? I think I did a content on how I navigate my writing process. So but then if you need it, you can make a comment through request and then I'll post the link. Well, some of the challenges faced by PhD students, such as workloads, deadlines, and research pressure, is always there for everyone. So you really can't run away from it. You have deadlines, you have to submit some things, it has to be reviewed. People have to comment and critique it and then get back to you on that. And it may be entirely from a different perspective. Well, yeah, so you're not immune from workload, deadlines, and more because you have to keep up with all of those activities. Those are part of the test I have to go through to see if you can deliver research within a certain period of time. So, well, I'm just going to share my experience and stories. Man, beginning my PhD was tough. I had a proposal, all the plan, all set out in my head, written out, but then everything started playing out differently. And first was my proposal twisting and changing at the point I wanted to even, because I wasn't happy with the change. I wanted to start off with another topic afresh, and then I looked at it again. No way, I shouldn't. Then I stuck back to my original proposal, mashed it up, and then did more work, and it became something substantial. So yeah, that was a very big stress. During the review, I didn't know the kind of review I should do. I didn't know how to even. I knew how to do literature review. Not that everybody knows how to write some sort of a review. If you're going for PhD, at least you do that in your proposal level. But knowing how to navigate it, what style, what approach, if you are doing thematic, conceptual, how to organize it generally, it becomes something else. But then I was able to navigate my way through, and then it was quite very easy. And yeah, that's for PhD. And then how does it now connect with adjusting to parenthood? I've got a son before who is 2+ going 3 this year, and we welcome another baby because we just wanted to be done with baby production. Yeah, so we needed to be done with that, and then we sort of agreed, and then well, my wife and I, and then we had a baby, and then it becomes another area its own self. The pregnancy stage, they weren't phoning, and but I got the support of my wife, who was also working while she was pregnant. That's really big, massive support, because I can work as a PhD student beyond a certain hours. So I've got 20 hours, and at the point I needed to stop working because I just have to focus on this PhD thing to get things going. So life changed, things changed, activities changed, and then to men baby came, boom, attention all on baby, attention all on baby. You just have to focus on baby at that point in time. So if you can hear any noise in the background, it's my son talking. Chola Oluwa, please focus on what you're doing and stop talking, okay? That was a bit of scolding. Yeah, so that's part of that's part of this that's part of the process of parenting and pursuing PhD. Imagine if I was writing at this time or reading, it would be dead disturbing. You can't lock them out because, like my wife said, you just have to make him understand that you're busy and not just keep quiet or ignoring. It's not easy. A bit of distraction can even suspend the progress on a particular course when you're writing. It's a flow. When you're disconnected, it becomes a problem. Well, balancing childcare responsibilities with academic commitments with my wife, it's been good. It's not been easy, and really at some point I just felt like maybe she doesn't even understand. Sometimes she understands, sometimes she doesn't understand, so you don't even know what to do at that point in time. So but then she understands. Eventually we disagree to agree, and we need this support to get things going. And it's really, really, really very stressful, mentally, psychologically stressful. And but what has to be done has to be done. Deadline will not shift because of your family responsibility. Yeah, it's all up to you to decide how you want to balance it. Fine, you can take a break, you can intermit. And some things happened in January that I had to sort of stop working, stop writing PhD. I had to focus on family, more baby commitment and all. I took a pause for a while, which I never wanted to. I didn't think I will need to, but at this point in time, we're talking about time, and I had to. So I did a retrospective. I think it's retrospective now. Yeah, just to save some time, which I did. And February came up, started working again, wrapping it up. Did some fast-paced interview, which came at a very short notice. Opportunities. I've been chasing some interviews for a couple of weeks, and one weekend, about 4 or 5 of them came up. I was so excited. I did it all along. At the point, there was a match I needed to watch, and it was clashing with my interview. Anyway, I had the interview, and I watched the match. You may say I'm on serious. I was just looking at the screen and the scores and all. I had to do that either way. But then the interview was also fine. And in fact, it's one of the best interviews I had during those the last 3 or 4 months. So let's move on. So what else? What should I talk about? Balancing the responsibilities, I would say generally is not nice. So as per tips and strategies for managing time effectively, you have to plan yourself out because nobody will teach you. Because a PhD is very independent work, and managing it up with parenthood, handling newborn who don't care about your time. They don't care if you're stressed. They don't care if you are fine. They just want what they want at when they want it. And sometimes you just cry endlessly. You can't even explain it. You can't help it. So what do you do at that time? You suspend everything. So you just have to plan your time to whenever works for you. There's no special recommendation for when to how to plan the time. Whenever you have the opportunity to work, make the best use of it. Yeah, that's what I would say about that. So if you have got assistants, it's gonna be very, very helpful. Support system. I've got quite a number of support, but then it's they really have to go on with their own life too. So they have activities, things to do for themselves too. So they will leave at some point. So, but then if you got a family staying around who is free, that would be a great one. So while you're working, they're looking after the baby, and yeah, co-parenting arrangement thing. My wife is not working now. I'm also not working. I'm just focusing on PhD. How do I handle finance? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I had to cut some job too, and I had to do some things at some point, So to make it up, quite less than 20 hours, but it's not sufficient. This has also impacted on, which is the third segment that I want to talk about, which is nurturing family connections. It has affected family connection. We try as much as possible to keep up with it by maybe praying together, watching movies together, just playing cards. I've got quite a number of cards with me, so I've got some games right behind me here too. So, but then when you see that you've got a lot of work to do again, your mind will be twisted and cut off that. So, well, either way, strong relationship is very important to get yourself going and for you to be productive. Because if you are not emotionally satisfied, it's going to affect your productivity level. So that I can say about nurturing family connections. The second thing is to discuss the potential strains on relationship due to time constraints and increased stress level. When you are stressed, you tend to react differently from how you would normally react. So really, you can only try to manage it. You can't be perfect. So there are sometimes you're not reasonable. Sometimes your partner will not be reasonable, your wife or your husband may not be reasonable. That's totally understandable. You just have to make do and manage through whatever the situation is at that time. So for practical suggestion for staying connected, practical suggestion for staying connected with family members. Schedule a dedicated family time. We planned movie nights, hang out and all of those things. But then it didn't work at first. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's just not realistic. You just have to be very, very realistic with yourself. And then you leverage on any opportunity you have for them that you can bring them in. Like I sometimes share my work with my wife to read through, so that we sort of bound based on that level. Yeah, so that's one of the ways I sort of involve my family in my research, and also that also helps us to stay connected. You may say it is boring, but that is what it is. All right, my coping strategy and self-care. Well, if you care to know, this podcast is one of my self-care because it helps me feel like I got some other things going, and I'm recording this before I start working because ordinarily I'm meant to be coding now, but then I'm recording this podcast. So this is a self-care and well-being strategy. So do what you like, do what you want to do, you love to do, what you wish you were doing if you're not doing PhD, sometimes in between, to sort of create some level of distractions, and that will help you sort of get back on your track and feel okay when you're back to your PhD. My coping strategy, man, I choose to watch movies sometimes. So I'm not a movie person, but I have to force myself to watch it. And recently I started playing games. For many years, many years, for over 2 decades, I'm not a game person, but man, I needed to play games at some point to sort of distract myself and balance things out. As per resources, recommendations for assessing support, there are a lot of counseling services on campus. You can do that with family, friends who are capable of offering good advice. But then I'm not using any, so I find my own counseling in the Bible. Exactly, studying the scriptures, watching Christian movies, sometimes saying documentary or listening to messages. I find a lot of strength in that. So I really don't go for the what do I call it now? I don't sort of go for the professional institutional. There's a name they call secular counseling. Yeah, secular counseling service. I don't go for that. No. They tend to make some conclusions. I believe some things are better done in a particular way, that in the line of your belief, which I stuck to anyway. So there we go about that. So the next thing I want to talk about is expert advice and insight. I'm not an expert. I cannot provide expert advice. I can only tell you how I do my own, and those are the things I've talked about earlier. So, but at some point in time, I think I would like to bring somebody in to talk about, the coping strategies and more about this. So that will be all about my main point. Just to recap, in this podcast, I've been able to talk to you about the challenges adjusting to parenthood and newborn care, nurturing family connections, and a way to keep up with family. So these are some of the things you just have to think through and then ensure that there's a balance. And so one thing doesn't affect the other. It's very important for your well-being. It's very important for your progress, and it actually make things and get things going. So guys, I would say, to sign this off, stay positive, be uplifted, do what you like doing when you're stressed, and then above all, seek for support when you need one. So thank you guys, and I hope to see you again in the next episode of my podcast. Cheers to you all. Bye.